You're listening to Lyfe and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal. Mrs. Walker.
Mr. Walker.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing, actually. How about you?
Outstanding.
Outstanding.
Must be wintertime in San Diego.
I guess because I have on a hat and a scarf.
And a scarf.
Yes, and I just took my jacket off.
With no sleeves.
Yeah, because when you walk in the building, it's warm, but you're just reminded that it's cold inside.
True San Diego stuff, though. You have a T-shirt and a scarf on, and then all of a sudden it's 40 degrees outside.
Yeah,
and you say, "Where's my coat?"
Yeah, and if you can see my shoes, it's like the half shoes, right? It's like sandals and not sandals, but kind of sort of. Cheers. Cheers.
To
Shout
our favorite wine, Alto Piano. Really appreciate it.
Piano. Thank you, Denise Clark. We appreciate you and your family and all that you all do for the wine world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
and your delicious wine.
It's February.
February.
We just had an interesting conversation with our producer, and he said people are hitting him up, to do interviews and do articles, and he brought up a good point. He said I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what I do every day of the year. Why are you calling me in February?
Black History Month.
Yeah. He said, call me in March if you really want to know about me. If that's not the most gangster shit I heard all day. That's some gangster shit.
That is pretty gangster.
I told him, I said, I wish I'd have heard that on January 31st.
You're so silly.
Because we would have told everybody the same thing. But we're celebrating Black History Month. I'm super... I'm actually excited about where Black History Month has gone.
Oh, AMG.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's true. You remember how Black History Month was when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Well, I don't like. What was the first Black History Month? So I grew up in California initially, right? So that was a totally different experience. So tell me about yours.
I mean, New York City, Black History Month was a big deal.
There was a lot of black people.
Yeah.
I mean, where you were, right?
New York City.
You're saying New York City, but I mean, if you were in Manhattan, then no, all right? Or if you were in, so I'm saying where you were. So it's not just like New York, you know what I mean? Like,
no, New York City.
Yeah, Queens, yeah.
Everywhere, all 5 boroughs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like in San Diego, or like we don't have that whole percentage thing.
Yeah, I feel like in the Bronx it's a lot more Mexican people or
Gosh, you ain't from New York.
Puerto Rican.
Exactly.
And then in Manhattan there's a lot more white folks. In Long Island there's Puerto Ricans, and then Queens is black folks, Brooklyn is black folks. That's all. That's where black folks are.
Nah, we got our neighborhood. So when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, everybody was everywhere, right? So it wasn't as segregated as it was back in the days.
Oh, okay.
And so when you went to school, everybody was the same. So yes, in the Bronx is Puerto Ricans and Dominicans.
I can't leave out the Dominicans.
Yeah, it's different on the East Coast.
True.
But yeah, Black History Month on the East Coast was different because we learned a lot about everybody, right? It wasn't the same Black history heroes every single year. You learned about, different people, and I'm not going to go through the whole list of everybody that we learned about, but it was a pretty big deal, and it was really a celebration.
What do you mean you didn't learn about the same people?
So it wasn't.
What are you saying?
It just wasn't about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X every year.
Oh, like what I was saying about how I was. Well, when in California it was that way. In California, you had to learn about the same people, but in Gary, Indiana, like I was saying earlier, we couldn't do reports on the same people. We had to do reports on someone different. So it was different experiences. So I totally understand that. But continue.
Yeah.
So you said you had to learn about different people.
Yeah, so we learned about everybody, right? So I mean, Marcus Garvey, George Washington Carver.
And these are people you guys studied, or
Yeah, we actually studied them, and they actually had pictures up. So even in school, they would decorate the classrooms, right? And then you had all the different heroes from back in the days, and they would put their pictures up so you knew who they were, a little bio about them. You did your reports, the whole 9 yards. We had plays. It was a whole thing,
right?
Symbols, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And then of course you have your national anthem. We did that almost every single day. Here on the West Coast, they didn't sing the Black National Anthem every day. That was a part of every single day we had that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said before, I had the awesome opportunity to live in kind of two opportunities, not East Coast, West Coast, but kind of a Midwest kind of a deal. So in California, when Black History came, there was a couple of things, right? First, I was usually the only Black child or kid in the class, so that was always awkward because it'd be like, it's Black History Month, and everyone looks at you, and it's like, fuck, right? And then like most of the kids did their reports on like Malcolm X or Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks, so it was always the same, and that was fine. So it's like literally we would have to hear at least 7 Martin Luther King stories, and you know what I mean? It's
7
crazy.
different ways.
Yeah. I mean, everybody like, oh, and Martin Luther King did this. Like, that's the only Black man that they thought did stuff, or that they ever like researched or had to. And that's why when I got to Gary, Indiana, I'll never ever forget. When it was Black History Month, it was like, oh, okay, like, cool. I mean, hell, I've written probably 5 or 6 reports now on Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. Like, I know these stories. This is fine, And they're like, oh, yeah, you can't do it on any of those people. Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. And I was like, wait, so who are we supposed to do this report on, right? And I remember going to the library, back in those days, there's no computers, we didn't search things, and looking up, like, Black people, and, like, what they did. And I remember, tumbling upon Nat Turner, and that's who I did my first, like, in Gary, Indiana, Black History report on.
Okay.
And I remember being so intrigued by this man, his followers, the white people that actually joined with them, and like how it came against them, and like the whole story was amazing, something I never heard before, and it made me realize. And the teacher at the time said, listen, in California, they're not going to teach you this history. In California, they're not going to show you this part of you. These are heroes, is what they said, that they're not going to recognize because it wasn't in a good way for them. You know what I mean? Yeah. These were people that rose up against what they felt, just like Rosa, just like Malcolm, just like Martin, but in a different way, right? So I really appreciate that type of learning.
They forced you to think outside the box.
Yes. And from that, I learned of Emmett Till, right? Something I had never learned in all my years in California. And I learned that story, and that was a dope story, right? And it was just like, what? This actually, like, these things happen? So that kind of blew me away. And then just to hear the courage that his mother had and all that was amazing as well.
Are you going to watch the movie? Would you be able to watch the movie?
Eventually I will. It's a hard movie. It's a hard movie to watch, and me personally, I have a very hard time watching movies like that. I still haven't watched Glory. I tell you, I have a very hard time watching movies where things like that happen, and then that's where I understand why people are like, okay, there's this history that we have, right? So we have this responsibility to teach history, and then I understand when people are just like, we're not slaves no more, so why are we still even talking about that, or even representing that, or even going back there, right? So let's like kind of bury that history and then move on. So it's rough for me to watch things like that. I know the story. Do I need to see it played out? Am I glad that it is a story and that it's a motion picture, and that people who did not have that opportunity to go somewhere else and actually learn about it now actually do? Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Would you?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why, and I get what you're saying too, as far as, not living in that time, right? Because me, I talk about that all the time. When movies come out, it's like, all right, another slave movie, like, goddamn, like, come on, like, But the premises, the courage, is what we should highlight mostly, right?
It's true.
So to me, that's what Black History Month is really about. Is about the courage that everybody had taken, from their journey in life, and understanding that courage and utilizing that. And to me, that's what it's really about teaching nowadays. We kind of make light of like, oh yeah, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and that's it. Or, we kind of take it, we take offense to, oh, Black History Month is in February. It's the shortest month, and that's it. To me, it's about the courage that every single last person who've walked this life and everything that they went through and how they overcame it, right? So that's where I feel like, all right, let me understand, let me learn, and then see where I can take that same amount of courage and go out and not do the same because they created the path for me, but take it to the next level. Use my platform accordingly, to teach and educate the youth of every race, of every color, because they all need to understand the courage and they all need to understand what it took to get to this point.
Yeah, definitely.
We just had one of the amazing Super Bowls, right? They made a big deal about this.
Yeah.
Super Bowl just happened for 2022 season. And, it was funny. They talked about two black quarterbacks. First time ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, what was the funny, babe? Why you say funny?
What's funny is because they made a big deal about it.
Yeah,
right?
That's pretty funny. What's funny to me is because I had a Google little Mahone.
Yeah. Of course, we had to. Patrick,
I said, now, he mixed with a little something. I want to see.
Patrick
is this a Barack? Is this a Barack? No, okay, that is our black president. That is our first black president. I'm just saying he ain't like.
Yeah.
Patrick,
shout out to Patrick Mahomes, talented dude. But
congratulations.
But he lighted than goddamn my shirt, right? Yeah, we had to Google it. We were like, what are they talking about? But what was funny about it is they kept calling the quarterbacks African American. That was the first thing. It's like, well, these guys are nowhere close to being from Africa.
Yeah.
Right?
Never been to Africa. Yeah, that's true.
Like these dudes is from here. They're American. So that's one thing about Black history. It's Americans' history. Right?
And then they don't call it African American history. They've never had any kind of like, let's call it this or no. It's always been Black history.
It's Black history.
That's American history for sure. You're right.
Exactly. And that's the reality of it, right? So it's just kind of taking, the things that we've always been used to and then changing it. And the process has been slow, but it's still a process and we're still going through it. And by all means, nothing is perfect. It's not like we arrived or anything like that. But it's great to talk about. It's a great conversation.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, the way that it's changed now, football players now, the way that it's represented on that platform, not even just like football, but all sports platforms now, they actually talk about it. They actually acknowledge it, where before it was kind of just like, not only was it the shortest month, but they didn't really even acknowledge or talk about it, right? So now there's times for, yes, like you said, people to be recognized for the courage that they've had to do all types of things, whether it be build businesses or have the courage to actually save lives or create ways to save lives, right? So now our children still, if they're in a place where it's majority white people, it's still kind of an awkward thing, I would say, but it's still a flip where it seems like it's a time for us to be kind of like rewarded and like given these acclimates instead of it feeling kind of weird.
The trip is, so Black history is celebrated in multiple countries, and that's the cool part.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's celebrated in North America between Canada and United States. The UK celebrates Black History Month.
That makes sense.
And it's funny because systematic racism is in both the UK and the United States.
So wherever that is, that makes sense.
So you got to. But then outside of that, Ireland, Holland, and in the UK, they celebrate Black History Month in October.
I wonder how that is.
Yeah.
Is it like how we do St. Patty's Day or something? You know what I mean? It's like we're gonna have some, like we're drinking or like what do they do? I want to know. Like, what do they do for Black History? Like, what is it, a week or is it the whole month?
I would love to visit Holland and Ireland in October and see what that's like. I mean, we flew through
Smashed
Ireland.
it.
Yeah,
Oh,
like we
yeah.
flew through Ireland. So it'd be interesting to check that out.
Holland.
What Black
Oh,
History Month look like in
yeah.
Holland and Ireland.
Yeah.
So I think we should put that on the
Yeah,
list.
let's do that. That'd
and
be
see
awesome.
what that,
And then
yeah.
we could tell everybody, like, listen.
Because I have no desire to go to UK.
Or Holland. I never thought about Holland, but I would go there to see that.
Just to hang out there.
The UK feels just like a souped up America, right? Or it just feels like where we got all our shit from.
Not souped up, old ass America.
Yeah, like where we got all our, like, like this feels like kind of familiar.
Very familiar.
Yeah. Like that was our boyfriend at first. And we got some new daddies.
No, it wasn't the boyfriend.
That was our daddy.
Yeah, it was
that was our daddies.
The original daddies.
We got some new daddies. Some step daddies.
Yeah.
They just copied.
Then we had some rambunctious kids to run away from the UK.
It's silly.
and we call them the stepdaddies. Yeah. Shout out to our founding fathers.
Yes. America loves their daddies.
America loves their daddies. I love to say that. We put a whole mountain up of them.
Yeah, it's so true.
But the cool thing about Black History Month too, I know, when we was raising the kids, going through school and all that, especially in California, I had a tough time dealing with it because I was like, yo, what the hell is going on? So the kids, when Black History Month came around, I made the kids do reports.
Oh yeah,
they didn't have to do reports.
Yeah,
and I was like, what kind of school you go to?
Yeah, because they got tired of everybody doing the reports probably on the same people, so they just like, yeah, we're gonna just let this pass.
Yeah, and of course our kids were upset about it, but I was like, yo, you figure out.
Oh, them doing the reports?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
They was pissed.
They love it now. What did they have to do? One was on the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah.
That was pretty dope.
Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
I was like, because they couldn't. I told them, I was like, you guys tell me who you want to do a report on. And then when they came back, it was like, we don't know. I was like, here you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like,
and they had the internet. They ain't had no excuses.
That's true.
They didn't have to go to the encyclopedias.
Yeah. They didn't know copy and paste, so they had to be original.
Exactly. So the other cool thing is just like even walking, like I told you, I was in downtown San Diego, and I see banners up of Black History Month, right? And it's like, and not just like we celebrate, but it was like Black History Month, education. This is what we had the fist in the air. It's actually, people are listening. People are taking it serious.
Yeah.
It's not just like woe is me. Granted, we still have systematic issues going on.
Definitely.
That's not like we not trying to hide that. That is a very much reality thing. But because of us knowing our history, that's what's going to take all of us to change all that.
Yeah, and it's moving us away from this where it felt like they were kind of throwing us a bone to now it's like let's be proud, right?
Exactly. That's a good point that you put.
Let's not just this is Black History Month, let's get it over with, do a couple of parades or whatever. It's like no. These people actually really did something in America and made a difference and actually made a change, and they are a part of our history because of that.
Exactly. Yep.
And they matter. And I think that's important.
And the people that's in charge of these parades and people that are doing things are not Black people, right?
Yes,
right.
true.
There's people, especially
True.
here in San Diego. There's people of all walks of life that are doing things, in reference to the heroes that walked this earth, before us. So, shout out to everybody that's just putting the work in. And to me, I think that's why it's so important now, because it's not just about the Black people in the history. It's about how this history has impacted everybody. It goes back to what I was saying. It's just the courage, right? Like, to me, if you look at this and you think about that word courage, I think that's going to change the mindset that when you look at stuff now, you're going to say, oh shit, like they did have courage.
Right.
They have courage that you don't even see today.
Yeah. And we say don't talk about the Martins or the Malcolms or the Rosa, but they did have courage, right? And that's why there are like the martyrs of the, you know what I mean, and that but there are other people and they had courage as well. And there's people nowadays as well.
Yeah, and young, right?
Yeah.
I'm 41 years old.
Yeah.
Malcolm and Martin didn't make to 41.
Yeah, real
you know what I
talk.
mean? A lot of the people back in those days didn't make it to 40. So again, when it comes to when I sit down and I'm talking to my 19-year-old son and my 26-year-old daughter, my 23-year-old daughter and my 16-year-old daughter, all I can think about is how can I create the personality of courage or the trait of courage. And the only way I could do that is thinking about the guys that came before me and everything that they went through and telling them the stories. Like, hey, check this out. I didn't have to go through a lot of that. I didn't have to go through a lot of things, period. But what I did go through it was because I look back at this and it got me through. Yeah. And no matter what you go through in life, if these guys went through this, these girls went through this, and even the people that we don't talk about, the people that were in protest and, you know, fighting and went to jail for no reason.
Yeah, the kids that went to school when they right?
The Greensboro Four. I mean, like everybody. You know, it's like it's all of those things. You know, and then even going down to, you know, we talk about different business owners. You know, we just seen a story on Jack Daniels and Nearest Green. Yeah. And how that impacted the whole industry of whiskey. Yeah. Like it's all of these different stories.
And if you guys don't know the story, it's in the Nearest Green basically was the creator of whiskey. He taught Jack Daniels how to.
Not the creator of whiskey. Well, not. He was pretty good.
Yeah, but he perfected a certain type of whiskey, right? Because there's tons of whiskeys. I mean, from Jack Daniel to all the other whiskeys of the world, right? But this particular whiskey, he learned to do quite well. But I don't like Jack Daniels, but still, I mean, it's a thing. So, you know, I don't have to like it. It sells. Yeah. But this particular guy was forced to, right? Because back in those days, that's what happened. He was forced to teach him how to make it. But side story, Jack Daniels was also he was an orphan. His mother actually passed away at an early age, and his father died in the war. So he was orphaned at an early age. I believe they said it was 8. And he went and lived on this farm where this guy actually was, and he said, "Hey, like I want to say they said at like the age of 13 or something. They're like, hey, teach
8 years old.
Oh, it was 8.
Jack was 8.
No, but when they first taught him how to like make whiskey or like to do the whiskey thing, it was like 13 or something like that, which is crazy too, right? Like go make this whiskey
and it was a grown man.
Let this grown man teach you, and it's a trip. And it's a picture of Jack Daniels back in the days, and it's of his whole crew. And in that crew, he's sitting next to a black man. And they said, like, all the white men, like, that passed were just like, why is he sitting next to a black man? Back in those days, you know, you wouldn't sit next to a white man because that was just improper. But that, like, was almost of someone who was very close to Jack at the time and who had taught him how to make the whiskey. Now, the story is going off record, or not off record, but it's off the topic. But the story talks about how it feels as if Jack kind of stole that from him, which I understand, but everybody learns something from someone, right? And if you actually take it and flip it and put a business behind it, then that's something different. I don't know back in those times if Mr. Green would have been even able to have done that. No, right? He wouldn't have had the resources or the time, and that is unfortunate, right? But now it is a product. There's 2 black women behind pushing it. One is the CEO, and one is actually his great-granddaughter, great-great-granddaughter, who actually is still like kind of in the kitchen, so to speak, making it happen. So great story if you guys ever want to look it up.
Yeah. So to Danielle's point, you know, so you got off on a tangent, but to your point is that the story behind it, right? The story behind it was, you know, this man taught this teenager how to make whiskey, and he was forced to do it, but then he sent his son down to go work with him and then continue on, and they were in business together. But of course, the son didn't, or the family didn't get any benefits from that.
Yeah, they stayed employed and they stayed working, so they always paid them, but not, of course, not as much.
Yeah, exactly. And they wasn't slaves; they were employees. But the story behind it, right? So the story behind it is, you know, you can create processes and be really good at that process and get behind it. And then, you know, back then they didn't have, like you said, they didn't have the opportunity to go out and create a dope ass business. But today you do. You do because there were people before us that made it happen. So Black History Month is not just about Black history. It's not just about us. It's about the entire country, but it's about the courage. And to me, it's about the courage, and it's about the opportunities that we have today. All of us. It's about all the opportunities that we have today to leverage and make sure that we understand the origins of things. We can't allow stories to be forgotten. We can't allow stories to be just thrown under the carpet, and we can't allow stories to be fabricated. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You can't come up with some bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So we gotta pay homage. That's my big takeaway on this month, and I'm truly proud of it. And we've had the opportunity to have a few different interviews and conversations and articles, about us and our story. And I just hope that we live up to the same courage. And when people talk about legacy, that we're doing the same exact thing that they did. And people could talk about that 50, 60, 100 years from today.
I love it. There's two good quotes that come to me when I think of this subject. It's just Black history in a sense, right? And when we talk about the courage and seeing what other people had, this quote from Frederick Douglass makes a lot of sense. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, right? So if you can catch a child early, which is one of my things that I love. If you can catch a kid early, right, and teach them some good facts and courage, and this is what happened, and this is how you can be, it's a lot easier than trying to prepare or repair somebody who is a broken man already, right, who's already learned the ways and who's already been broken. And then Maya Angelou, the more you know of your history, the more liberated you are. So definitely when I was a child and I read Nat Turner and I did a report on him, and I actually read about Emmett Till and his mother and the courage that she had, definitely I felt more liberated. I felt like, well, damn, like, my people do things. So I definitely seen the courage. So I appreciated that.
It's dope. This is Lyfe and Shyt.
It's Lyfe and Shyt.
Love you, girl.
Love you,
baby. Do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.